Welcome back to I Do It Myself. First and foremost, y'all gotta stop thinking that the only place people listen to music at is the club. I think that that's the dumbest way possible, the most ridiculous way possible to only measure music. Taking into account that most people who go to the club, the ones who can afford it, right? The ones who can afford to really be in the club every weekend, or let's say throughout the week. Y'all are in a certain class of people, in a certain type of demographic of people that's the way y'all consume music. That's the way y'all hear about new artists, or that's the way that you follow based on what you heard or came up on or what you continue to do. That had changed a long time ago. That changed a whole long ass time ago. And I want to get into the conversation and break down why the club is not the most important place for you to hear music at, nor is it the most important place for you to discover music or new artists at. All right, so at one point in time, music was only able to be consumed, bought, you know what I mean? The only way you could get it is if it was hand to hand, meaning you had to go to a record store, right? And this is a long ass time ago because that changed. That been changed. Like that don't even exist. So the mindset of 2025, people saying, yo, I don't hear that in the club. Ain't nobody playing that. Shows me that you don't really know much about what's going on in 2025. But it was a point in time where the DJ was the most important curator when it came to music. The most important curator, the most important person that you could get your information from when it came to music was the DJ, whether that was the radio show, the mix show, etc., right? Streaming, DSPs, digital streaming platforms changed everything. But as much as it changed, people are still stuck in a mindset because they're easy to control and they're easy to make people believe certain things said on their proximity. See, proximity tells a lot of people who don't leave the proximity, and that means even if you travel to other clubs, if you go to the club every week and you listen to stuff every week, that still gives a certain box that you put yourself in as to how people get their information. Radio DJs today, your radio show used to be enough. You used to be able to be on a radio show and that's it. How many radio show DJs that you know that you may listen to their music or listen to their show or not, go on live from IG or TikTok or whatever platform they may have in order for them to get engagement with the consumer? How many? Mostly all of them. Most people who have radio shows, you have to be prevalent on social media in order for you to get your word out. Now, social media is it's also a funny way to look at things as well, because social media also doesn't tell the entire story, but social media is the largest part of the story when it comes to how people consume things. I wanted to get into, clubs and club data and what clubs mean. So look, right? The general closing times at clubs ranges between 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., right? Now, smaller towns is usually 2 a.m., standard, that's it, because of liquor rules for liquor licenses. And other places, like I've been to certain places in Massachusetts, Boston, and in surrounding areas where the club closes at 1 a.m., right? So take into account that the club probably opens around 10, or the prime time for people to be there is around like 10 to 11. All the people who think that they're the most important come there, it closes at 2, they come in there at 12:30, 12:45 to stay in that nice pocket, right? But in that short amount of time, you telling me everybody in America, that's how they get their music? That's how people get their music. Yo, y'all gotta stop making BS excuses as to why you don't understand how things get popping, right? No one thing is responsible for all things. So to say that that's the biggest thing is crazy, because the average person can't even afford to be going to the club. Now, we got a lot of people that live below average, and we got a lot of people that don't have priorities that's going by a section before they pay their rent. That's going by a section before they pay their child support. That's going by a section before they do responsible things in their life, right? So yeah, let's group them in. Let's group in every scammer, every hustler, every rapper, everybody who get into it that's in the club. If it was so easy to break music through the club, Spotify would have their own club. Apple Music would have their own club. Amazon Music would have their own club. And I listed them in that order because those are the top 3 streaming platforms. Those are the top 3 streaming platforms, right? Now, Spotify, right? Hold on a second. Give me 1 second, y'all. Spotify they are, head of the market because they also have like 600 million users. So they got 600 million users, 600 million. That's the entire world. That's not just where you from. You know what I'm saying? That's the entire world. And 236 million of them users is paid subscriptions. Paid subscriptions. I would say it again. Paid subscriptions. So all them people that be like, I ain't with that internet shit. I don't be on the internet. I don't do this on the internet. You're usually saying that on the internet. Keep that in mind. Now, when you factor in social media, right? When you factor in social media and all of these budgets and buttons and widgets that they've attached to social media in order for you to spread the word on your music, that's one of the direct pipelines to the middle. That's the middleman in a lot of ways. How many people you see you see a kid, right? Just for parents out there, for parents. How many times have you been sitting with your kid and your kid starts singing a song that came from your era, your time, and you like, how the hell you know that song, right? Like, how do you know that? Because a song might go viral, right? A song might go viral because somebody made a new trend to it, and people follow trends. That's why trends are trends. People follow them, whether you think it's right or not. That's what this whole term of follow is like. Honestly, we living in this. If people had to really make a movie based on all of the things that we consume, all of the things that we engage in, all of the things that make us move, we wouldn't believe it, but it's happening right now. You control. Shit, I'm controlled to a certain extent. People are all controlled, and they're controlled by things that are out there based on social media, right? Now, Apple Music, you know what I'm saying? Apple Music is second in the market, right? They have over 100 million paying subs. And then Amazon Music has over 80 million paying subs. And there's still people that, shouts out to Amazon Music, but there's still people that don't know or don't care to know how these things work. So again, I wanted to know what the top consumptions of, streaming was. And it says Spotify's global reach within hip hop, right? 25% of all streams are hip hop, 25% of the market. That's a quarter of the market. A quarter of the market is hip hop, right? With over 400 million users engaging, in 2003. This is when I got this research information. But the top markets, right? With that being said, the top markets are United States, Mexico is the second, Brazil, Germany, France, United Kingdom is sixth, Spain is seventh, India is eighth, Canada is ninth, and Italy is 10th. You know what I'm saying? Now, even though Apple has less of a subscribership than Spotify, which they had 600 million users, 236 million subscribers. Apple is, they had 30% of the market share, 30.7% of the market share, right? And hip hop is 50% of the US streams and the major hip hop releases. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is all hip hop that we're talking about. So the question is asked, well, if people don't listen to music in the club, what are they listening to? You, yourself, genius. You the person that's turning this shit on. You the person that's making it known, or you're the person that's going and demanding what it is that you want. You're not waiting on Free and AJ no more. You're not waiting on Funkmaster Flex to drop bombs. You're not waiting on a certain freestyle on somebody's platform. Now it is a driver, but it's direct to consumer. D2C, direct to consumer. That's why so many artists have a problem with the DSPs because Spotify, why it's the biggest, it has the lowest payout, right? So people are saying, yo, I give you my work to sell and I put time in, I put money in, I put, thought in, strategy in to give it to you. You sell it and then you giving it to me at way less than a fraction of what I spent to even make the music, right? But again, we having a club versus, the club conversation when it comes to consumerism, right? Now, when it comes to streams and how much they cost or how much they're worth, right? Let's get into that. So a streaming equivalent from a premium account, that means a person that's paying, because you could go on most of these DSPs and they have like free ones, they have free versions to just sign up, but you're gonna get ads during that time, which is all a revolving door of selling you something, right? 1,250 streams, right? 1,250 streams. A subscription to Apple Music, a subscription to Spotify, whatever, equals 1 sale. So when a nigga running around talking about, yo, ain't nobody playing that, ain't nobody playing this, ain't nobody playing that, ain't nobody playing this, right? I'm pretty sure that whoever you see on a daily basis that's listening to music every day in front of you is not listening to any one song 1,250 times. So how are you gauging what people what people listen to, or what's popping based on your information? Because you're not using the data to determine this. You're not. Now, for something that's ad supported, if you have a regular account and it's ad, you got to listen 3,750 times for it to count as once. Some of the best albums that I ever bought when they was on CDs or tapes, as much as I love them and all of the years that they've been out, I doubt that I've listened to it 3,750 times. But people still use this as a measuring metric as to why things are the way they are. So when people say shit like Playboi Carti, now look at Playboi Carti. Playboi Carti, he got songs that could play in the club, right? He does have songs that could possibly play in the club, but you don't typically, and this is kind of me using my own points against myself, you don't typically go to clubs and hear Playboi Carti sets. If you look at Playboi Carti's core demographic, it's not people who go to the club. It's not. Now, he got songs with Future. He's on Type Shit with Future. He has Magnolia, which is a club record. He has all of these records that sonically could fit that space. A lot of them could sonically fit that space. You could literally plug it into the wall and it fits, right? But that's not what they listen to. And that could be for a multitude of things. Some people look at Playboi Carti as this weirdo. He wears thongs. He's feminine. He paints his nails, whatever. He's one of the biggest artists that exists in the music marketplace. Streaming, social media, all of these things, trends, all of these things play into how your mind works, the psychographic, not just the demographic, but the psychographic as to how people go and click play, right? I just think that, like, when you talk about a Playboi Carti, when you talk about a Yeat, you know, somebody like Yeat, I might like listen to all of his music like that. I do like a lot of Yeat's music, but I don't always listen to him. But if a person says, well, that shit ain't popping, he ain't in the club, guess what? The person that's in the club every weekend, I'm talking about like the artist that's going hard on just trying to get a club banger, whatever, they ain't half as popular in the marketplace when it comes to music consumption as a Yeat. And I'm generally speaking, I'm speaking about, like, you know, said rapper that's like, every time his song come on, he popping bottles and throwing money. You're spending your marketing bad. That used to matter. That doesn't matter. You wanna know why? Because most of the people that you're doing that in front of, you only reaching a certain type of demo. If you're an artist, you should want to reach as far as you could possibly go. But if you box yourself in, like I said, if it was so simple as to a club, then Spotify would have a club, or they have club partnerships where Spotify, all the music has to be played just through their app, or they would make a DJ app where you can DJ through their app. People are still downloading songs and loading them up to Seratos. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever program that they use in order to play these said songs, which they have to have accounts in order to get these records. Because guess what? The label don't send downloads no more. They want you to consume, they want you to stream, because they've changed the game as to how things go. It's almost like, you know, tangible food stamps that used to be paper, and now food stamps have been on cards since I don't know when. But if you my age, you know about them food stamps. You know how embarrassed we was. You used to have to go in the store, hide it, slide that joint, the poppy like this, you know what I mean, slide it under the candy that's on the corner so that you don't get embarrassed. But I just think that, like, it's lazy. It's extremely lazy to feel like the club. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have music that plays in the club, if it can translate on both platforms, if you can have your digital right and you can get engagement in the club, then you got something. But the people who even go to the club, they live regular lives like everybody else. They don't wake up in the club. They wake up, they might take their kids to school, even if they out, whatever type of lifestyle a person lives, majority of them are not getting their information as to what's dope to them in the club. I think that the best thing that we have and the worst thing that we have is access. The access permits you to learn, but a lot of y'all don't want to learn shit. Y'all just want to sit around and just say what you think. What you think has nothing to do with actual facts or what's actually going on. When you start looking at this market data, when you start looking at all of these things, because people don't want to know business, they think they get into music and just think, oh, it's supposed to be how I want it to be. No, it's how the system makes it. And if you can't work within the system, you really got too much ground to stand on when it comes to that type of stuff. Consumption happens in all facets. There's a mom that don't go to the club at all, that's busting her ass, taking care of her kids, going to school, going to work, making sure she come home, do what she got to do. She's getting her music. She's getting her music straight off the DSPs. She might be the biggest Rap Caviar fan there is, or the biggest Rap Life fan there is, and that's how she consumes her music. This small ass time span of a day that everybody, average person, can't afford to be in, that space, it might be a little bit of an elitist space at this point. That's not how people get their music. This is how I do it myself. I'm Wayno. For the ones that rock with me, you know how we doing. For the ones that don't, eventually will. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.